LeBron James versus Stephen A. Smith has taken over the sports world, but is that actually a bad sign for the sports media landscape? I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, it's gotten to the point where now Commissioner Adam Silver has had to respond to Stephen A. Smith versus LeBron, or LeBron versus Stephen A. Smith, this ongoing feud. We only know what tomorrow is going to bring at this point.
I've said it before. This is the gift that keeps on giving. These guys just keep going back and forth. It's kind of crazy. And Stephen A. spent the entire day talking about this today. So I kind of wonder if LeBron's kind of done. I don't know if he'll say anything else about this. So hopefully we kind of just wrap this one up. But yeah, it's absolutely been a really long saga, dating all the way back to the initial comments LeBron was upset about and all that stuff. But it's interesting that Adam Silver finally chimed in. Do you know by chance if he, and this, of course, if you don't, that's fine, if he had like any sort of media availability or something like that?
He did. Okay. He had a after the Board of Governors meeting, he had a media availability where he was talking about the NBA perhaps expanding into Europe. They're looking at doing a league there. He talked about the All-Star game and why that didn't work out. He also talked about because he was asked about this topic and to kind of give his thoughts on this. And yeah, well, here let's just get into it.
They asked him about this at the end of all that. Like, what do you think about LeBron and Stephen A? Those guys are instigators.
I mean, think about how important media coverage is to the league. Like, so this is a league topic that we're starting to see a shift in media coverage around the NBA. So here's what Adam Silver had to say. He said, "Sometimes it seems that in other sports that I'm a fan of, and when I watch the coverage, particularly around the games, it seems to be more celebratory." Now, he does have a further statement that we'll get into in just a moment. But, Donnie, that goes back to this whole idea that you've got not just former players, but media in general, just constantly being negative about the NBA, because unfortunately negativity tends to sell that we don't really see quite so much in other sports. And that, I think, creates frustration. It especially creates frustration amongst current players who feel like, hey, I'm doing great things out here. And then everybody's just piling on all this negativity and everything. I mean, case in point, they talked about Stephen A. against LeBron, right? That was the opening of ESPN programming this morning. LeBron won a game at the buzzer last night, and that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. I mean, negativity sells, and they know that, and that's why they purposely try to go down that route whenever they possibly can. And unfortunately, it does lead to a lot of the coverage with the NBA seeming like it is mostly negative. And sometimes that's some of these older guys that are genuinely saying they don't, like this new era because X, Y, or Z. And sometimes that's just media coverage because they'll literally go out of their way to ignore a dozen different storylines to focus on the most controversial one, which we're seeing today.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm glad that Adam Silver is addressing this and saying, like, hey, why, other sports, it seems like everything is more positive, and now we're getting so far into the negativity. And of course, there's a lot of interest around this, but at the same time, it does feel kind of gross seeing two men kind of going back and forth, picking on each other and just trying to say negative things about each other. There's some initial humor to it, I suppose, when they can add in some funny. I mean, LeBron talking about the tighty whities and all that kind of stuff. Like, but then it starts getting serious. They're like, seriously, like, especially Stephen A. today was seriously getting upset about it, and that's where you just wind up feeling kind of gross in the whole situation. But let's get into the remainder of Adam Silver's comments. First, we need to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. We always appreciate them. We always appreciate when you guys help support the companies that help support us and our endeavors here on this fast-growing channel, and all of you who have been along with us from the beginning. But Prize Picks Daily Fantasy Sports, you guys can use the link in the description down below. Sign up with Prize Picks, use our code Bulletin, get a guaranteed $50 on your first $5 played. Let's make a few picks here. Spencer, the Demon one is always a little bit more difficult. The pick there, 6.5 assists for Dinwiddie. What about our guy AD, 19.5 points against Orlando?
That feels like a really safe bet, but he had a 13, 14-point game last time. So I'm curious about his production this time. If he gets to the line, sure. You know what? It's AD, so I'll say more.
Okay, let's go with it. I do wonder, is there going to be a minutes restriction there? What is that going to look like? That's fair to wonder about for sure. Dyson, boy, if Dyson Daniels had steals in the mix, we could just smash the over on that one there. But let's go. What about Dyson Daniels? 24.5 points, rebounds, and it says he's really been passing the ball well lately.
Yeah, I think that's a good number for sure.
Okay, so let's go with those two.
I would personally go under.
Oh, that's right. Well, it didn't work out for us last time, so let's go more this time, and we'll go a $10 entry fee would win $30. If you guys want to go check out Prize Picks, you can use that promo code Bulletin and click the link in the description down below. All right, so Adam Silver also had this to say. He did say that he'd prefer that we focus on what's happening on the floor. He said, I haven't had an opportunity to watch or read precisely what went on today. Frankly, so much has gone on that it's hard to keep up with it all. He said, but of course, we'd like the focus to be on the play on the floor, and I particularly feel protective of our players, but I recognize there's a cottage industry out there of media that we're often the beneficiary of. That talk about our sport around the clock, I sure wish it would never become personal. So the NBA, one of the great things about the NBA for NBA fans is that it is a 24/7, 365-day a year league, right? Where, yeah, we get some slow times in August and in July, or in August and September, but like July, there's no NBA games in July, and yet that's one of the busiest times of the year because we have free agency start in July, and that gets a lot of stuff going. And the NBA trade market can be incredibly exciting, and that creates fan engagement. The trade deadline is always one of the busier times of year in the league. The draft, anywhere from the draft all the way through the free agency period, is super busy. You have all kinds of activity going on. It's the game within the game, the transaction game. And there's a lot of rumors and things like that fly around about that. All of this, I think, is important for the overall footprint of the league. And I think Adam Silver recognizes that, and that may even include the personal relationships of some of the players, who they like, who they don't like, that type of thing. But Adam Silver saying, especially when it comes to media and players, that he wish it would not become personal like this. And it sure feels like this has become personal.
Yeah, and this isn't the only example of bad blood between media and players.
Nope.
This is just the most recent and most public one because it's LeBron and Stephen A. That's obviously gonna get eyeballs on the situation. And yeah, I do think that if it ever gets personal, then you're probably just gone too far. And I personally think that this all just in general has gone too far. I think it's time to just wrap it up personally.
Yeah.
They'll clearly never see eye to eye. One person feels a certain way about it, the other feels entirely different,
and one's much taller than the other. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it.
Oh my god! Did you see that? Did you see the thing I sent you where he was like, "Oh, I would have got my ass beat if I."
Yeah, I saw that. But you're right. They're never going to see eye to eye. And it's gotten to a level now where, I mean, Stephen A. had comments today about Kobe's memorial, about how LeBron was and it was false.
Wrong. Like it was, that's the craziest part. If you're going to go out there and say stuff like that, at least be right about it. He had to literally backtrack on the network and then on Twitter and say, "Oh, my bad, I was wrong. But I still meant everything else I said. But I was wrong about LeBron not being." LeBron was there. He just didn't want to be on camera. And then the very next day, I believe, gave a whole speech in front of the arena.
He sure did.
Like, what is he trying to sow? Like, let LeBron and Kobe, like he didn't like him like that, or like what? Like, he also was bringing up LeBron, for the record, not making it to D Wade's Hall of Fame thing, but like conveniently left out that just a couple days prior was the Bronny thing. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think D Wade was upset given what happened with Bronny.
How could you be?
Right.
That's just crazy, man. So yeah, I don't know. They'll never see eye to eye. I think it's personally just probably best to just let it go. But yeah, if you're gonna do all that, I think that's a little bit too far personally, and that's not the way that the league should be covered. And we've talked about it before that other leagues have better coverage. We've talked about this with Charles Barkley and all that stuff because they don't stoop to this level. They keep it to where it's about the play. They're interested and invested in trying to educate people on what's even happening on the court. We don't even have guys for the play-by-plays for the most part. We don't have guys that are trying to educate you on what you're really seeing that often for the national level. We don't have a lot of different things that other people have when it comes to the coverage of the game while it's ongoing or afterwards, excuse me. So yeah, I think that this all it's not great. I don't think that we put out a great product for this league. And also I think when everybody is constantly shitting on the NBA, what do you think the national perspective will be?
Yeah,
that can't happen.
And that's where people wonder, well, why were ratings down? And now they're back up. But it took a seismic trade, and then there's renewed interest and all of that. Yeah. But when when people are constantly speaking negatively about the league rather than shining a light on the positives about it. And I do think the game is in a really, really good place when you watch the way the game is played. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. It's not. And are there things we can complain about? Yes, but that will also always be a true statement. No matter what you do to the game, there's improvements to be made will always be a true statement. It's never going to be finished. It's never going to be perfect. There always will be changes to be made as the game shifts, as how the game is played changes. The game has evolved significantly, even over just the last couple of decades. It's changed so much. And it's important that we do highlight that while it's changed, change doesn't mean worse. Change doesn't mean bad. There can be some really good things that are happening. I mean, my God, when I look at what defenses have to do in today's NBA, the amount of ground they have to cover in today's NBA, it is absolutely unreal the level they have to be at in order to get a stop in today's league. And look, there's shining a light on some of that in a positive way, I think is certainly important. But there's also the fact that Charles Barkley ranting about the Lakers is going to do millions upon millions of views. And hey, look at what a great defensive read Alex Caruso just made is going to fall flat. Like that's just the reality of social media as well. And so it's trying to walk that fine line between the sensationalism, the hot take culture, all the negativity, all the name calling, all the calling people out, all the someone got cooked, and the look at how great the product is on the floor. It's trying to marry those two things and walk the fine line to capture attention, and using that attention to focus on some of the positives in the league and not just falling into kind of the cesspool of hot takes and terrible coverage.
Yeah, and I think so the players are not actually, I had something start playing on the side, my bad. The players are not fully they're also at fault for this, right? They're not absolved of blame as well. I mean,
Sure.
while Draymond is free to have the opinion he had, I thought it was a very bad look to have him during All-Star weekend just on there flaming the NBA. I thought that was pretty crazy. Flaming the players, saying this is trash, all this and that. Even like when he wasn't on and they were just talking to him, with his availability, he said, I don't like where our game's at now because XYZ. And again, you're welcome to that opinion. I think that's a bad look, though, like I was saying, when everyone gets on and is just talking about it. And also on the LeBron thing, we talked about it yesterday. It was probably a bad look for him to come on and say, the draft is rigged and XYZ.
Yeah.
That's probably a bad look too. So I think all around, just the players involved, the coverage is just
and we talked about the draft being rigged and all that. And is it real? And that's frankly a thought that a lot of people have had. Is that good for the league? Probably not. But also, what are the mathematical odds that everything that happened really would have happened? Right.
So they should have asked Adam about that one.
They should ask Adam about that one. They should have asked him about that one. But that I think is in and of itself, like that, I think tells you a lot, right? So look at like Adam Silver, who is the commissioner of the NBA, addressing the relationship between the media and the league. That's news. That's getting aggregated that to me is fine, right? I mean, that should get aggregated. That's news that is pertinent to the NBA. When Adam Silver's talking about developing a new league in Europe, that's NBA news. That's important stuff that is going to matter for our sport. But when it's former player X calls out player Y, and that's what's now getting funneled into the aggregation cycle and getting amplified, that's where all it does is it sends us further down this dark path that we seem to be headed down right now.
Yeah, and I don't really see a way out right now. I think that this is just kind of how it is, and it's unfortunate, but I don't really see a way out of this. Maybe people watching the video have a solution. I don't know, but I just think that overall the coverage is just very bad.
Because the numbers are the numbers, right?
Yeah,
and former player X calling out player Y, and then everybody responding, whether or not they agree with that opinion or that take or whatever, that's going to do better than Adam Silver talks about NBA in Europe or whatever, right? That's going to draw better numbers, and that's what some of it will come down to. And unfortunately, that pushes us further and further, in my opinion, in the wrong direction. Donnie, I'll say this: what I would love to see more of. I think debate has a very real and very meaningful place in conversation and discussion and in furthering thought. What I would like to see more of, though, is rather than people just reacting, and I'm talking about in general on social media, people just react at the lowest possible level in terms of they see something and they respond with this, essentially, this is good or this is bad. And obviously they use different terms, but they either say, I agree with this or I disagree with this. What we don't see people doing enough of is why. And that's how I think we could spin some of that, is people took another step there. And why? So people say, bro really said blah, 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 crying face emoji, right? That's what we see people put out there. Okay, obviously you disagree with that opinion. Why? What's your opinion? Why do you disagree with that opinion? That's how you further conversation. And unfortunately, we see way too much of the latter right now. And that's a way that I think you could kind of marry the two things, where you're actually celebrating what's happening in the NBA, furthering the deeper conversation about it, without just devolving it into the most basic level.
Yeah, I agree with you. That could be a thing, but I guess we just won't know, because
We won't know.
this stuff is what people. That's the catch-22 of this all. It's like, we don't want this, but we want it, and so they give it.
It's
And
fast
so
food.
we just keep going around and we go, right? Like, it's just, that's the whole reason this all exists, is because they look at it and say, us yelling at each other got a trending video. Okay, well, let's do that again.
It's a big, greasy cheeseburger. We know it's bad for us, but we can't help but take a bite anyway.
Let's do it again. Let's just keep it up. So, I don't know.
All right. Well, everybody, give us your thoughts on the topic in the comments down below. And
Maybe we
don't
should
forget
start
to go
yelling at
check
each
out
other.
our latest video. Till next time, see ya and stay safe.